Since my video 26 mistakes that ruin your win rate was received quite well, I decided to make a sequel about 22 tips that boost your win rate. Here comes Pepper. Welcome everybody! Let's start with something really simple. Simple touches to go past opposing players, like this one here, or this one. For the first one, without sprinting, you move the ball to the side you do not want to go as a sort of decoy. Then, once the opponent's player is close enough, you just go to the other side and let him tackle into nowhere. I think it works a bit better if you sprint on the second touch, but you shouldn't have to. Works best with great dribblers. The second one I want to show also works fine with not so good dribblers, like Costa Curta. Basically, you sprint. As soon as the sprinting animation starts, you release sprint. You already can, as you can see at the circle, hold the left stick in the direction you want to go. Just before your player is about to touch the ball again, hold sprint. This will let you do this little quick touch and go past the opponent. Both of these are mostly about timing, so it can take a while to get it right, but don't worry, you got this. The second tip is using super cancel to keep possession. You probably know this situation where your player just keeps moving even though the ball has already slowed down, like here. Many times you can just super cancel and manually run towards the ball. In this situation here, the ball is probably not quite fast enough to reach my player and let me continue the attack. So I decide to super cancel to take my player off the rails and approach the ball. Not only do I get to keep the ball this way, if you do it like I did it here, you can also easily pass the defender, because while you have already turned, he will be mid-turn animation while you can already accelerate again. The third tip is using super cancel to move into players' paths. If you see this, my player doesn't really have a way to intercept this ball. He's on rails and will just keep moving behind the defender unless you super cancel and move into the path you suppose he will take. This alone got me a goal. Players don't expect this because it is so rarely used, so they think they're safe. Number 4 is using super cancel to avoid uncontestable headers. Here, my player is way too far to contest this header, so if I don't do anything, he will just stand next to the opponent and watch him head the ball to this player here. So what I do is I approach him only a little bit to make the opponent think I'll be trying, then super cancel and then run straight to the player that he will head the ball to. This is a really super important thing to master. Sometimes instead of trying to get the ball, you can also strategically reposition your player, like Costa Curta here, who I use super cancel with to get him further back, giving my opponent's winger less space. When trying to get the ball this way, try not to super cancel too early like I did here, because a competent opponent will then just super cancel the pass. This is basically the standard play here. It's still good for you though, you didn't get the ball, but your player is in a good position. Number 5 is the last super cancel tip for today, using it in aerial duels. This is pretty straightforward. Instead of staying in your current position, which is often behind the opponent, you super cancel and move your player closer to the ball, and if you can, in front of the opponent's player. This will greatly increase your odds of winning aerial duels, which can really be a game changer. I try to use it whenever I feel like my player is in a bad position. Here's a good example of where I didn't use it but should have. At this moment I should have super cancelled and moved Makai south, but because I didn't, the game kept him in a bad position and I lost the duel. The next tip is very situational. Number 6, disguising passes. In this situation, everybody is pretty much marked and the shot, while it could work sometimes if you're lucky, might not be the most reliable idea because I'm like 45 degrees off angle. I shoot anyway and my opponent realizes it and tries to move Raika to block my shot. However, I didn't actually shoot. I passed because I expected him to move Raika to block then, which leaves Maradona alone. Now all I need to do is to score. Tip number 7, let's move to number 7. Always go for the easiest solution. Basically, in any situation, you want to choose the most reliable option. For example, could Makai score from here? Probably. Is it more reliable to just pass and let Hulit tap in? Definitely. You can also increase your odds in other ways. I think it used to be like this in the old PES games, so I'm pretty sure it still works like this, but if you don't sprint, your shots will be more accurate. This is why whenever I have the chance to, I slow down before shooting. Even if it wouldn't make my shots more accurate, it would still be advantageous because it shows me where the goalkeeper goes if the opponent uses manual goalkeeping. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Contested headers or volleys have a comparably low success rate compared to normal shots. That's why seemingly easy direct headers often go wrong like this. Of course, this doesn't mean you can't score this way, but what I do when I can is this. Look here. Can my striker take the volley and score from here? In many cases, yes. Can Neymar just tap it in from this distance? In my opinion, definitely a lot easier so. So I always try to go for the simple solutions with the best reliability. This is also why most corner routines are not about directly scoring, by the way. Finding the most reliable solution isn't limited to scoring though, but also includes passing. Here, I pass it directly because the opponent is pretty close already. With Vieira, I then take an extra step because I can. It greatly improves the angle and accuracy. Whenever I can, I try to control the ball and use the first touch to improve the angle, then pass with the second touch. Number 8 is always choosing the correct shot. One of my first videos actually was a tutorial about all the different shot types, so feel free to have a look if you need some support there. It's in the description. Basically, whenever it makes sense, meaning whenever the drawback of possibly being a bit slower for a shorter time in some situation doesn't matter, use a stunning shot instead of a normal shot. In the tutorial I mentioned, I also show how you can sort of minimize the load up animation. Stunning shot is just better, please use it. For finesse shots, it's pretty much the same thing. Whenever you can use a knock-on finesse shot without being punished, go for it. It's superior. I sometimes even try to specifically create openings for this. Look here, this is just a random throw-in, no good chance. I was about to throw in already when I saw my player down here moving up, so I thought let's try something. It worked. So whenever you have the space, go for it. Also, while we're at shooting already, outside curler can really be your friend. It's also in the tutorial. Let's move to number 9. Don't tunnel vision. Whenever you have the option to, glance at relevant places of your screen other than the ball carrier to be aware of what's happening there. Here, for example, the ball is safe for a short duration, so I can easily glance up a little to see what Messi is doing, who is about to reach Rijkaard with massive overspeed, making a through ball nigh impossible to defend. Same thing here, no opponents around, so I can easily see what my players in the middle are doing. This makes it easy to time the through ball, but that's not the only thing to look at. In this situation, I have plenty of time to look, so the first thing I do is look here to see if Vieira is free to pass to, which he is. I also look at the map to see if there is a good short option outside of the screen, but there isn't. Now, while this ball is traveling, you can again look at the map and look who is completely alone all of a sudden. It's Neymar. Whether you should do this with just peripheral vision or actively looking is probably different for everyone. Do what's best for you, it doesn't matter as long as you know what's going on. I also do this to see if the opponent's keeper is moving out. Tip number 10, anticipating short free kicks or goal kicks. We keep our player where he is so we don't draw any attention. Once the keeper starts running, we try to intercept the pass. Occasionally, this will work and you get a great chance. It also works at free kicks. Again, no movement before the free kick taker moves. But as soon as he moves and the free kick is underway, we sprint towards the destination. Of course, if your opponent always does long goal kicks or free kicks, there's no need to keep trying this. Just take a good strategic position then. Tip number 11 is use shoulder tackle. It's pretty good right now. Look how my opponent just ruins my great chance with the shoulder tackle here. Scandalous. Basically, you want to use this when there's little risk and high reward. Here, for example, the risk is very little because if it gets called and I am booked, the opponent only gets a free kick far away. The reward, however, is crazy high because I get the ball this far up the pitch and the defender won't be able to act for a little. Same here, little risk, high reward. In my opinion, the closer you are to your opponent and the more from the side you're doing it rather than from behind, the greater the chance of it not being called or booked. But that's just my feeling. Number 12 is not not keeping the wrong player after your chance. Here, you immediately want to switch to a forward because otherwise you prevent Gullit from going back, where he could be missing. The other approach would be to purposely keep him either full up or a little up or even sideways to have him pressure the opponent from behind, but I think that's a very situational play. The 13th tip is to not use auto-allocate for your player builds. There are so many creators out there who share their builds, skills and boosters. Just take the chance and use some of them if you don't already. Otherwise, you might be wasting potential of your players. Tip 14 is learning a corner routine. I still use mine from my tutorial, except that nowadays I apply less force. All tutorials mentioned in the description, by the way. Let's look at this game. 92nd minute, corner kick. Having a corner routine could win this game on its own. Although to be fair, that was pretty lucky, but if I had no routine at all, it wouldn't have happened. Number 15 is using the dummy run. It's extremely simple but incredibly powerful. All you have to do is flick the right stick into the direction the ball is traveling, like here. It is very good at surprising the opponent and can often lead to goals. If you have it used once in a game though, be aware that your opponent will probably expect it now. Number 16 is learning how to shoot penalties. Now I don't know if anyone ever tested this to the core, so take it with a grain of salt, but I always shoot with full power at a corner because sometimes, I think it's only if your player has the penalty specialist ability though, so not sure, it can even go in if the opponent guesses the direction, like here. For the actual aiming, I always try to do it so the outside of the aiming circle after going full power aligns with the post, so about as much as here, perhaps slightly less. To be fair, I don't know if this is the best method, but I've been using it ever since and it worked well so far, so I thought I'd share. Tip 17 is using your entire team. You want every single player in your squad to have a particular reason and role to be on your team. I'm sure some of you might have players that they think they might still be using, but actually never have a use case for. Also happened to me before, we just have to be aware of it. Maybe there's a different player not on your squad that you might have a use case for, even if it's situational. Just a little example, when playing long ball counter, I take Van Buiten in my squad. I use him either if he has a better form error or specifically if I need a more aerial defender. I think you know what I mean by now. Tip 18 is not sprinting all the time. I think somebody commented this under one of my videos, and while I haven't ever seen anyone actually doing it, if you, dear viewer, do this, please don't do it. It makes you predictable and your playstyle rather stale. Give your players a little break, let them have some food, perhaps a little nap. No need for them to sprint all the time. Tip 19 is quickly manually switching in some situations. In some situations, the game sometimes locks you onto the wrong player even though he can't do anything anymore. Like Suarez here, even though Neymar could do so much more with the ball. In this case, just quickly switch either with normal switch or the right stick. It might not be too critical specifically here because nobody's near Neymar and you could probably even wait for the game to switch, but if somebody was near him, you'd need to do this fast to control Neymar to get the ball before the defender. The good thing is that this doesn't happen too much, which is probably the reason why I don't have any better footage of this. Tip 20 is using matchup correctly. Here, for example, I was using it wrong. The reason is that I'm slightly behind the opponent but so close that holding matchup will make me slower, but being in the position I am, I'll never block a pass towards the south. You see, it's literally doing nothing. But what I should have done here is either from here, move northeast and block the passing lane, or if I fail to do this, super cancel south now to get into the player's way. Matchup is very useful, for example, in a situation like here, where you basically match up the speed of your opponent and block crosses and passes. As soon as you're no longer blocking a passing lane, you should do as I did here and sprint to catch up, and possibly also press if you're close enough. As soon as I have the inside position again, I'm trying to match up again, which was good. But then I expected the opponent to pass to Gullit and kept holding matchup to intercept the pass, which never came. So matchup was wrong again. I should have released it earlier and fell back a little to make sure I could cover a pass to Gullit, but also be close enough in case he does what he did there. Tip 21 is not using the automatic offside trap. It can quickly get you into trouble. I'd even stay away from using the manual offside trap for the very same reasons. If you want to use this at all costs, don't overdo it because the better your opponent is, the more likely he will be able to exploit it. The last tip, number 22, don't blame the game. It won't increase but rather decrease your win rate because you might lose focus. While I can't change how the game works, I can always change my play and what I do, and improving this should be the top priority. Will I get better and improve my win rate by complaining about it? Unfortunately not. Now I know, this is all super easy for me to say into a microphone while being calm and out of the game, and yeah, I complain as well. I blame the game as well, but unfortunately that does not mean it's good. And always keep one thing in mind. In the end, in the bigger picture, it's just a meaningless game in a video game anyway, and your value as a human being has absolutely nothing to do with how you perform in an online game. For real. Yeah, so I guess that's it. Let me know if you like this video. I'd love if you subscribed, liked, or commented. Until then, guys, take it easy. Shaka!